Good morning and welcome back to Quality Measures. Today we will be reviewing Module 6, Activity 1. Activity 1 will deal with framing the expectations for the meeting. This slide will give you an idea of some of the items we'll be talking about today. Our agenda will be as follows. We will do a little fun introduction. We'll talk about the overview of the quality measures process. We'll go through the orientation meeting objectives and also discuss the team roles and responsibilities. Let's start by having a little bit of fun with our introductions. If you could be any actor or actress, who would you be and why? Please stand and find a partner. Tell your partner the name of an actor or actress you would like to be and why. And then be prepared to discuss why your university is interested in going through the quality measures process and what you hope to achieve as a result. Please be prepared to introduce your partner to the rest of the group and be prepared to share out some of your responses that you had with your partners. I'm going to give you a few minutes to find your partner and begin to share, and then we'll come back together. Thank you so much for coming back together. That was great fun. Let's go ahead and move on. The first thing I'd like to discuss is our orientation meeting objectives. This is very important because we need to know why we are here. The first thing we're going to do is build collective knowledge about the school district's principal pipeline initiative and selected principal preparation programs that your district is currently serving. We're going to provide a comprehensive overview of the quality measures principal preparation program assessment process. We're going to also look at the quality measures rubrics for coursework, clinical practice, candidate admissions, and graduate performance outcomes. We're going to reach agreement on team roles, responsibilities, and proposed timelines for completing the process. Let's start with a little overview of the QM process. Remember, the whole idea behind the QM process is for continuous improvement. The QM process starts with a baseline data collection and builds on the data analysis and improvement throughout the process. Let's talk a little bit about the historical background. In her seminal research on exemplary principal preparation programs, Linda Darling Hammond found that exemplary principal prep programs included strong course content, pedagogy, and an internship. The study commissioned by the Wallace Foundation produced findings and recommendations that launched the Principal Preparation Reform Initiative. QM rubrics were developed prior to the study's completion, but were aligned to reflect study findings. In 2008, the ISLLC standards were released and adopted by states. Concurrently, in 2008, the Wallace Foundation commissioned EDC to conduct a national study of principal preparation programs funded by Wallace, to describe the types of programs being implemented and the role that urban school districts played in shaping those programs. Following that research, QM was again revised to reflect the latest findings. An evidence-based methodology and graduate program outcomes were incorporated into QM's tools and protocols. Wallace launched its Principal Pipeline Initiative in 2011 and funded 6 large urban school districts to engage with their primary prep program providers to reform principal preparation. QM was administered as a baseline self-assessment with pipeline school districts and their preferred program providers. In 2013, a professional learning community comprised of pipeline school districts and their prep program providers was funded by Wallace and facilitated by EDC. In 2014, a second cohort of 14 additional pipeline school district providers was brought on board, bringing the total number of program providers in the pipeline initiative to 36. All 36 programs conducted QM baseline self-assessments in partnership with their affiliated school districts. All assessments are facilitated by EDC. In October 2015, the refreshed ISLLC standards were drafted and renamed Professional Standards for Education Leaders and the Next Wallace Foundation Initiative. The University Principal Preparation Initiative was born in 2016. Quality Measures is being refreshed to reflect changes in the Professional Standards for Education Leaders, and we expect a revised edition to be completed by the end of 2017. Also funded for implementation by EDC in 2017 is a scale-out reform that approximately 6 non-Wallace funded school districts and their partners that will include a baseline self-assessment. So let's move on to theory of change. The aim is to improve quality and effectiveness of principal preparation programs. There are 4 components and 4 drivers within the programs. We have coursework, clinical practice, program admissions, and program outcomes. In the diagram shown here, the primary aim of QM is to improve the quality and effectiveness of principal preparation. To accomplish this aim, the diagram identifies 4 prep program components as the QM primary drivers for prep program improvement. They are coursework, clinical practice, program admissions, and performance outcomes. The operating theory being that if these 4 components are significantly improved, the result will lead to the accomplishment of the aim. Secondary drivers make the primary drivers operational for the purpose of guiding program improvement efforts. These drivers are identified in the literature as indicators associated with the 4 primary drivers. As shown in the diagram, secondary drivers for coursework are course content, pedagogy, and course assessment measures. For clinical practice, the secondary drivers are intern placement, intern supervision, and intern experiences. For program admissions, the secondary drivers are application standards, recruitment practices, self-administration, or no actor. The 4th primary driver, performance assessment, identifies 3 secondary drivers: exit competencies, licensing and hiring, and principal performance during induction. Let's look a little closely at the indicators, the first one being coursework. Within coursework, we have content, pedagogy, and course assessment measures. The content is research-based and relevant for leaders in the specific demographic context of partner schools districts. The content is aligned with competencies and is aligned with school district performance expectations for beginning principals. The pedagogy, course competencies are developed in real school settings through the program, and course assessment measures, formative assessment measures, have been developed and are used by faculty to assess candidate progress toward intended outcomes. Clinical practice has to do with intern placement, intern supervision, intern experiences, and performance assessment. The indicators for program admissions are admission standards, recruitment practices, readmission standards, and selection processes. In performance outcomes, we have the exit competencies and the state certification and hiring. The exit competencies are based on rigorous assessments of standard-based exit competencies that align with professional standards for educational leaders and local principal performance expectations. Program graduates demonstrate the requisite knowledge, skills, and aptitudes required for state licensing. Okay, the QM rating scales for indicators uses a 4-point Likert scale. Each criteria is examined and rated individually and uses criteria to guide the collection of strong supporting evidence. Course content. Each criteria is examined and rated individually. QR rating scale for supporting evidence. Supporting evidence is quantitative or qualitative data confirms the accuracy of the self-assessment rating for a program component. Quantitative and qualitative data confirms the level of impact for a program component on a scale from large to no impact. These two examples, with 4, that would be exceeds, and 3 would be meets, which means the evidence showed medium impact or the evidence showed large impact or even low impact. So next, the evidence and ratings, we need to think about what is it we need to try to locate. We need evidence that already exists. We need evidence that closely matches the criteria. It's quantifiable evidence that has a degree of impact, that practices that are replicable and scalable, and overall quality of the program. So now we're looking at using the two scales together. Supporting evidence ratings of a 4 must support the indicator rating of a 4. So you will determine how well your program meets the criteria on the rating scale. You will have put together a team of 5 or 6 members. The team will help you determine the quality of your program. The scale provides you a range of options from rating each program component. Evidence must support the indicator rating given. If the evidence does not support the indicator rating, the rating will need to be adjusted to match supporting evidence, either up or down. Determinations about levels of impact are made based on the data indicating the effect of the program component. If the evidence does not support the indicator rating, the indicator rating will need to be adjusted to match the rating given for the evidence. After the review team reaches consensus on rating decisions for each program component, there is a summary of ratings. They are calculated for all of the programs, and an online self-assessment tool is completed and submitted to quality measures to their center office. So let's move on to team roles and responsibilities. The role of the district project director will be to open the meeting, to welcome the participants, and to facilitate team member introductions. They will provide an overview of the district's principal pipeline work, the district goals and priorities, and how the quality measures process fits into the pipeline work, and the rationale for selecting their preferred program providers. You're going to be inviting and responding to any questions, and you're going to introduce the QM facilitator to begin the process. Now, the facilitator will frame the expectations for the meetings. They will be the ones who share the norms for engagement. They will help to build that shared understanding of the indicators, the rubric criteria, and the examples of strong evidence. And they prepare a team for evidence review meeting and discuss issues of confidentiality. The training program provider will honor the team norms for engagement, ask clarifying questions about the indicators, rubric, and how to select best evidence. They're going to assume responsibility for coordinating the program's evidence selection process, and they're going to provide available data or dates for evidence review and imprisonment planning meeting. And they will sign, of course, the confidentiality agreement. The review team member will honor the team norms, clarify questions about the indicators, and offer to assist with program's evidence selection process. They will also be available for dates for evidence review and improvement planning meeting, and also, again, sign a confidentiality agreement. Good morning and welcome back to Creating Shared Norms for Engagement. I'm Sandra Robinson and this is Module 6, Activity 2. Our agenda today, we'll talk about critical friends groups, norm setting, collaboration, and creating our norms. Within the Creating Shared Norms for Engagement, we have two areas that we're going to talk about today. Develop a shared understanding of what norms for engagement are and why they're important, and also facilitate a shared norms activity that results in adoption of team norms for engagement. Let's start with critical friends. A critical friend is someone who is encouraging and supportive, but who also provides honest and often candid feedback that may be uncomfortable or difficult to hear. A critical friend is someone who agrees to speak truthfully but constructively about weaknesses, problems, and emotionally charged issues. Building a culture of collaboration, the Critical Friends Protocol. Being critical friends means that we can depend on our colleagues to help us reach our AIMS goal. As critical friends, we embrace the opportunity to push our practice by 1. Providing feedback aimed at improving program design, quality of training, and deeper learning experiences for all. 2. Participating in transparent discussions about our practices in a safe and respectful environment. And the last one, offering resources and guidance that push thinking and provide clear pathways to quality improvement. Let's begin with norm setting. Creating a shared norms for engagement. Team norms are a set of rules developed by group consensus. Norms are designed to establish a safe, ordered, and productive context for the team's work. Team norms should be developed during the initial team meeting. Meeting protocols are agreed upon processes or tools that help keep meetings focused, on track, and on time. Developing agreed upon norms for group behavior makes collaboration in group meetings more effective by guiding team behavior. Norms enable team members to hold each other accountable for any behavior that has negatively impacted the success of the team. Clearly assigned roles and responsibilities help the team build internal capacity for planning and holding effective and focused meetings. Let's stop and do our norm activity. Please take 5 index cards from the middle of your table. You can reflect on and write behaviors you consider ideal behaviors for a group. Write one behavior down on each card. Then we're going to shuffle the cards together and turn them upside down and allow time for the group members to discuss each idea. Then we'll put them up on the board and we'll determine which ones we feel we can live with. Let's take about 10 minutes to do the activity, then we'll come back together. All right, thank you so much for working together as a team. Here are our norms. We will be fully present. We will have respectful use of technology. We will be active listeners. We will have equity of voice, and we will maintain confidentiality, and it's a safe environment to share different perspectives. Hello, and welcome back to Module 6, Activity 3. Today we're going to be talking about building shared understanding of indicators, criteria, and examples of strong evidence. In our last session, we created our team norms. We said we were going to be fully present, respectful use of technology, active listening, equity of voice. We want to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, and of course maintain confidentiality, and feel safe to share different perspectives. Our topic of discussion today, as I said, is Objective 3, build shared understanding of indicators, criteria, and examples of strong evidence. We're going to talk about developing a shared understanding of QM, program component indicators, develop a shared understanding of indicator criteria, develop a shared understanding of the rating scales for indicators, and develop a shared understanding of the rating scales for evidence. Let's look at a little history first. Remember, we talked a while back that these were developed by the EDC to guide and support the collaborative self-assessment of principal preparation programs used by school districts and their training providers. This edition of quality measure rubrics and evidence-based protocols reflects the evolution of indicators beginning with research of Linda Darling-Hamm on exemplary preparation program practices back in 2007. If you remember from earlier discussions, there are a number of things that went into place or that contributed to the development of QM, including the research, as well as research from the Wallace Foundation, which was commissioned by Kenneth Lithwith and others, affirming the principle's impact on student performance. There was a call to action from principal preparation programs to do a better job of preparing leaders. Since that time, these tools have gone through a series of important revisions to keep pace with an ever-changing landscape of increased accountability for preparation programs, linkages to principal performance. They reflect feedback collected from a host of users from across the country over the past decade. We're going to talk first about the 4 components of the program. QM program components, there are 4: the coursework, the clinical practice, program admissions, and performance outcomes. Quality measures assessment with its indicators and rubrics are designed for use by school districts, preparation program providers, and policymakers as a central component of a focused program self-assessment and continuous improvement process. The tools are intentionally focused on program coursework, supervised clinical practice, candidate admissions, and program graduate outcomes. These indicators and rubric criteria are used to build a shared understanding of program quality and to guide team discussions and consideration of evidence that would support a program rating of beginning to exemplary. Ratings are then used to guide the design and implementation of strategic interventions as part of an ongoing continuous improvement process. Let's look at the component indicators. Well, first of all, the aim. The aim is to improve the quality and effectiveness of principal preparation programs. As we said, there are 4 program components, and each of those components have their own indicators. Indicators and criteria. QM indicators and rubrics are designed for use by school district preparation programs and providers as a central component of focused program self-assessment and continuous improvement process. The indicators and rubric criteria are used to build a shared understanding of program quality and to guide discussion and consideration of evidence that would support the rating of well-developed. Let's take a little further look at the indicators and their criteria. Within content, pedagogy, and course assessment, we have to understand that all of these items are research-based. Content is research-based and relevant for leaders in specific demographic context. Content is aligned to competencies defined by the professional standards for educational leaders. Pedagogy is project-based learning pathologies, and they are primary instructional program strategies. Course assessment measures. Formative assessment measures have been developed and are used by faculty to assess candidate progress toward intended competency. In the area of clinical practice, we have intern placement, intern supervision, intern experiences, and performance assessment. Placement decisions are made in collaboration with partnering school districts. Candidates are placed in schools led by practitioners who are considered to be experts. Clinical practice placement decisions are made in collaboration with a partnering school district. The length of time for each clinical experience is appropriate for the intended training content. Candidate performance is assessed at scheduled intervals throughout the clinical practice experience by both faculty and field practitioners. In the area of program admissions, admission requirements are aligned with local, state, and national leadership standards for school leaders. Recruitment practices are guided by program admission standards and are conducted in collaboration with partner school districts. Readmission assessments, a battery of research-based assessment activities, are designed for the purpose of early identification screening and are consistently implemented as part of the admission process. And selection process. A process for the final selection of program candidates is well defined and used to guide the selection process. Programs and their partner school districts participate in the final selection of candidates recommended for admission. Program outcomes. Exit competencies, based on rigorous assessments of standard-based exit competencies that align with the professional standards for educational leaders and local principal performance. Expectations, graduate programs, and demonstrate the requisite knowledge, skills, and aptitudes required for state certification and licensing. State certification hiring, number of program graduates who are eligible for certification and licensing by the state to serve as school leaders as measured by state administrative assessments. The number of program graduates who are certified and licensed by the state to serve as school leaders. Let's move into the rating scales and thinking about evidence. Remember, the rating scale is a 4-point Likert scale. Figuring out when selecting evidence, we need to think about, we need to figure, what does it look like? What are we going to look at, listen to, and read is an important part of the process and should be discussed at length by the team prior to examining any evidence. The only criterion for selecting evidence is that the items presented capture the essence of the desired indicator and feature and clearly indicate the degree to which the quality standard is met. In addition to written documents, evidence can take the form of face-to-face interviews, observations, multimedia presentations, and any other relevant program-related materials or experiences. Let's move into gathering evidence. You want to try and gather the strongest evidence and data to support your ratings. Select supporting evidence that, 1, already exists, that closely matches the indicator criteria for the rating given, is quantifiable, verifies program impact, is replicable and scalable, and can be used to draw conclusions about the rest of the program. We want to make sure that you are making valid inferences and drawing reasonable conclusions about program effectiveness. So we have to think about what I already know, what I learned from the evidence presented, what can I infer or draw conclusions about. Remember, an inference is an idea or conclusion that's drawn from evidence and reasoning. It's an educated guess, a way of gaining knowledge, the process of inferring things based on what is already known. So we want to analyze the program indicator ratings. We might use a checklist. Examine all the criteria for a given indicator. How did you rate the component indicator? On what did you base your decision? What did you use for criteria 1, 2, 3, or 4? Do you have evidence to support your rating for each criteria? Let's talk about understanding the rating scale. Supporting evidence rating of a 4 must support the indicator rating of a 4. So if you indicate that your evidence meets criteria and provide a 3, the supporting indicator rating must also be a 3. Let's look at a rubric example. Here's an example of an admission standards rubric. And this is the criteria for the candidate admissions program component. Rubrics are intended to assist teams in reaching a shared understanding of rubric criteria for 4 exceeds criteria for each indicator. They allow review teams to see where their programs fall on a continuum from 1, which does not meet criteria, to 4, which exceeds criteria for each indicator. This step is accomplished by reviewing both the rubric criteria and examples of evidence for each indicator prior to conducting the actual self-assessment. Time spent reviewing criteria and identifying strong evidence for each indicator in advance of the actual review informs team understanding of what is strong evidence. So remember, your supporting evidence should already exist. It should closely match the criteria for the indicator being rated. It should be quantifiable. It should demonstrate the degree of impact. It should represent practices that are replicable and scalable and can be used to draw conclusions. QM rating, just a reminder, supporting evidence, quantitative and/or qualitative data confirms the accuracy of the self-assessment rating for a program component. Quantitative and qualitative data confirms the level of impact for a program component on a scale from large to no impact. Let's take a few minutes to list some documents you would be able to use to provide evidence on a program's admissions standards. I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to turn and talk with those at your table and think of some documents off the top of your head that you could utilize in a review. Thank you so much for sharing. One of the things that we need to have is some type of a protocol so that as you're looking at evidence, you can make good decisions as far as if this evidence and documentation is what you need. So this is one protocol that could be used to review your documentation. It's called Considering Evidence Protocol. And as you're gathering your evidence, evidence must support the indicator rating given. If the evidence does not support the indicator rating, the rating will need to be adjusted to match the supporting evidence, either up or down. Determinations about levels of impact are made based on the data indicating the effect of the program component. Think about this situation and be prepared. If the feedback during the meeting serves as a challenge to the rating you listed, what will you do to defend it? Hello and welcome back to Module 6, Activity 4, Preparing the Team to Complete the Self-Assessment Process. Our team norms are fully present, respectful use of technology, active listening, equity of voice, maintaining confidentiality, and safety to share different perspectives. The 3 areas under preparing for the self-assessment process are assemble and organize the evidence, present program evidence, and rate program components. We will be talking about the process for assembling evidence. We'll talk about providing information using the QM record sheets and how to present the evidence, rating indicators for the evidence, and submitting the ratings and level 4 evidence to the QM Center online. Preparation for the self-assessment process. These are the 5 bullets we're going to address in this video. Assembling and organizing the evidence, presenting the evidence, critical friends discussion, rating the documentation based on supporting evidence, and final submission of all documents to the Quality Measures program. First, you need to get organized. You want to make sure that you've created an electronic folder for each of the core components, but also create a folder for each of the component indicators. This electronic file will help you be able to stay organized and have everything that you need at your fingertips. Your evidence can be any of the following: written documents, face-to-face interviews, observations, presentations, or any other documentation that is program related. Presenting the evidence. As you know, there are 4 program components: coursework, clinical practice, candidate admissions, and graduate performance outcomes. There are a series of questions for each component that ask programs to discuss, review evidence, and rate each component. Each program requires approximately 2 hours for the review team to thoroughly examine the supporting evidence, rate the component both individually and collectively, and complete the online tool. We suggest projecting the online self-assessment tool on a screen for team viewing throughout the rating process. You may choose to complete all 4 program components in one sitting, which would be an estimate of 6 to 8 hours, including a short lunch break. Or You may decide to conduct 2 separate sessions, 3 to 4 hours each, saving your data after each session. Let's talk a moment about Critical Friends. Critical Friends helps to push our practice by providing feedback aimed at improving program design, quality of training, and deeper learning experiences for all. By participating in transparent discussions about our practices in a safe and respectful environment, and by offering resources and guidance that push thinking and provide clear pathways to quality improvement. Critical Friends, also called the Tuning Protocol Overview, is a 7-step process. The first step is presentation, where you would present your idea or your problem to a team. The next is clarification, where team members can ask questions. The next would be assessment stage, where they can assess the situation and provide some feedback. The next step would be where members talk about what they like. The next step after that is members would say, I wonder if this. And the next step, number 6, is reflection. And then step number 7 is I have. Rating the documentation based on supporting evidence. Remember, supporting evidence, quantitative and/or qualitative data, confirms the accuracy of the self-assessment rating for a program component. Quantitative and/or qualitative data confirms the level of impact for a program component on a scale from large to no impact. Please remember, if you provide a rating of a 3, indicator rating, the supporting evidence must also be a 3. Final submission. We suggest that the review team select one member of the team to facilitate the rating process and complete the online assessment tool for the team. When the team has completed all 4 program components, click Done on the final page to finish the online assessment. An acknowledgement of receipt of your data along with a PDF summary of your ratings will be sent to the email you provide. Use the evidence submission link to submit supporting evidence rated exceeds criteria by your program review team to the QM Center for Peer Review. Hello, and welcome back to Quality Measures Self-Assessment Toolkit. This is Module 6, Activity 5. There are a variety of resources for your team to use as you are going through the quality measures process. The items in the toolkit will provide you with directions as well as examples on how to complete the self-assessment process, how to report your information, and how to submit the documentation to the QM Center. Resource 1, README QM Toolkit Overview and Instructions. This tool provides an overview of the QM process, an analysis of the written reports, as well as instructions on how to review and submit your documentation. Resource 2, Online Self-Assessment PDF. This document includes the overview of the process, data analysis of written reports, directions how to get started, and information on the person submitting the document, as well as the baseline self-assessment survey. The quality measures process will guide your team through an examination of 4 core components of your program. Component 1, coursework. Component 2, clinical practice. Component 3, candidate admissions. Component 4, graduate performance outcomes. The 4 program components each define a set of performance indicators that are the focus for the quality measure self-assessment. Performance indicators and ratings criteria are research-based and used to guide the self-assessment and program performance. Data collected during the process is intended to provide program review teams with valid and reliable information about a benchmark component based on the indicator criteria. Review teams determine the degree to which their program needs the indicator criteria based on the supporting evidence presented for each indicator. Quality measures rubrics provide a range of options for rating program component indicators on a scale of 1 to 4. All rating decisions must be supported by evidence that confirms the accuracy of the review team. Providing strong evidence that supports team ratings is a central part of quality measures with self-assessment process and evidence. Resource 3 is the bibliography. This document includes a summary of articles and research, a variety of sources of literature, and topics that you may use to research. Resource 4 is Quality Measures Online Self-Assessment Form. This document is the online assessment form that you will use to report your ratings and your information. The form includes directions, information on the person submitting the form, directions about the process, and of course ratings. This is considered the baseline self-assessment survey. Resource 5 is about submitting evidence. This document explains the entire process on what to do and how to submit evidence, how your team will submit evidence to Quality Measure Center. Resource 6 is Orientation Meetings Protocols. The following protocols are intended to guide the process for conducting the prerequisite orientation meeting with school district and training provider review teams who are preparing to complete the Quality Measures Principal Preparation Self-Assessment process. They offer specific guidance on meeting planning and organization, as well as tips for communicating expectations and responsibilities to review team participants. QM protocols draw from lessons learned from QM users about how effective QM review meetings are conducted and the essential role of the orientation meeting plays in preparing for the evidence-based review process. Key responsibilities are outlined for the district project director, the QM facilitator, the training program provider, and review team members from each program. Resource 6 is a sample orientation agenda. The agenda provides proposed meeting objectives such as build collective knowledge about the school district, principal pipeline, and selected principal preparation programs, provide a comprehensive review or overview of the Quality Measures Principal Program Assessment process, introduce QM rubrics for coursework, clinical practice, clinical admissions, graduate performance outcomes, and then reach an agreement on team roles, responsibilities, and proposed timelines. Resource 8 is Quality Measures Participant Feedback Survey. This document includes a sample feedback form. The feedback survey will be helpful to you to determine your effectiveness on the different areas of the process and how well you explained and went through the process with the teams. Resource 9 is a sample PowerPoint presentation for the orientation. This is a sample guide that you can use, and it goes through all of the key components that you will need to have in your own presentation. Resource 10 is a confidentiality agreement. The QM Center requires that a signed confidentiality agreement be on file for each evidence review team member working with proprietary data, documents, publications, processes, and protocols. In addition, EDC is responsible for collecting signed copies of this Quality Measures Confidentiality Agreement from all members of the District Evidence Review Team participating in the Quality Measures Program Self-Assessment process. Please make sure that you return all confidential agreements to the EDC designee prior to use of the Quality Measures tools and protocols. Resource 11 is the Quality Measures Information Brochure, and it includes information on the Quality Measures Logic Model, components, QM rubric criteria, and the QM evidence-based protocol. So now let's take a moment to review. Let's stand up and pair up. Stand up and find a partner. Choose one of the resources and share out 2 key points with your partner, and then give your partner a chance to do the same. Take turns until we have gone down the resource list together. And thank you so much for joining me. Good afternoon, and welcome back to Module 6, Activity 6, Online Submission of Self-Assessment Ratings and Exemplary Evidence. There is a program pamphlet called the Quality Measures Center for Program Assessment and Technical Assistance. This booklet provides a lot of information for you if you need some additional info. Quality Measure Activities. These are some of the activities that Quality Measures has been part of. They facilitate the assessment of principal preparation programs to identify strengths and areas of focus for improvement using QM tools and protocols. They provide technical assistance to programs that use quality measure data to develop targeted improvement strategies and interventions. They've collected, interpreted, and shared improvement data with clients. They facilitate national and local professional learning communities of principal preparation program providers and school districts working together on persistent problems of practice. They design metrics and protocols for use in assessing program and partnership effectiveness and capacity for scaling and sustaining best practices. They offer an online training and certification program for programs interested in being licensed to use QM tools and protocols. They manage an online repository of evidence-based effective practices, and they serve in an advisory capacity on principal preparation at the state and federal levels. The impact of quality measures has been great. Over 1,000 downloads of quality measures open source tools posted on the Wallace Foundation website. Over 40 principal preparation programs have used the QM process to guide their improvement efforts in Wallace-funded pipeline districts. Quality measure scale-out initiatives are currently underway in Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, New York, and North Carolina to work with non-program pipeline programs. EDC's QM training and certification program will accept its first cohort of 24 candidates in June 2016. To find out more, you can go to the Quality Measures website in order to find some related resources. Quality Measures Center for Program Assessment and Technical Assistance. The website is listed on the slide. Some additional resources, from professional development materials for teachers to resource reports for policymakers, EDC has produced hundreds of useful, innovative resources. This library contains a selection of some of our materials, including apps, books, curricula, digital games, reports, resource libraries, and toolkits. Submitting the final self-assessment ratings. Use the evidence submission form to submit evidence to the Quality Measures Center. Complete the following steps to ensure that your evidence is successfully submitted. Enter your relevant contact information, program name, position, phone, and email address. Make sure the contact information matches what you recorded in the self-assessment rubrics. Rate your evidence using the supporting evidence rating scale. Please note that only evidence rated as exceeds criteria will be eligible for inclusion in the exemplary catalog. Select one or more quality indicators from the list. Submitted documents provided must provide evidence to support each checked indicator. Click the Choose File button to locate which document will be uploaded. Include any relevant notes in the space at the bottom of the page. Click Submit to send your evidence to the Quality Measures Center. You will receive an email notification of your submission that your submission was successfully submitted. If you wish to upload another document, click Submit Another Document at the bottom of the page. Program rating submitting exemplary evidence to the QM Center. Exemplary evidence would be evidence that would be listed as a level 4. Use the evidence submission form to submit evidence rated as exceeds criteria. Enter all the contact information. Rate your evidence using the supporting evidence rating scale. Only evidence rated as exceeds criteria will be eligible included in this catalog. Select the indicator from the list. Submit documents must provide evidence to support the checked area. Remember that. Remember to choose the File button and update the document. Click Submit and send the evidence to the Quality Measures Center. Remember, an email notification will be sent to you if your submission went through. Repeat the process to upload a second document. Congratulations! You have completed the report, you have submitted your documents to the QM Center, and you have completed the QM process training. Thank you for joining me. Are you ready for your review?